The obsidian chamber of the Valkyrie command station floated in the void between stars, a testament to the engineering prowess of the oldest species in the Galactic Coalition. Admiral Zekthor stood before the assembled War Council, his 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of triumph that his kind had perfected over 6,000 years of conquest. The bioluminescent patterns across his chitinous skin pulsed with colors that betrayed his excitement, colors that every species present could read as clearly as words. Behind him, a holographic display showed the human colonies scattered across their pitiful 12 systems, each one marked with a red targeting reticule. Esteemed members of the Coalition, Zekthor began, his voice resonating through the translation matrices that allowed the 17 different species present to understand one another. Today marks the beginning of the end for the human infestation. Our intelligence confirms that their primary fleet is scattered, their defensive installations are antiquated, and their military leadership is fragmented by internal political disputes. They are, as the humans themselves might say, sitting ducks. A ripple of what passed for laughter among the various alien species filled the chamber. The Krillian delegate, a being that resembled a floating cluster of crystalline shards, chimed with harmonic frequencies that expressed deep satisfaction. The massive Thorian representative, whose species had evolved from apex predators on a high-gravity world, released a deep rumbling growl of approval. Even the typically reserved Exatheri observer, a graceful being of flowing energy barely contained within a containment suit, seemed to pulse with agreement. Commander Sura Kal of the Valkyrie Intelligence Division approached the display, her movements fluid despite her species' rigid exoskeleton. She was younger than most of the assembled commanders, her carapace still bearing the deep purple hues of her first century. Our surveillance networks have been monitoring human communications for the past standard year, she reported, her tone professional and clipped. They are completely unaware of our fleet positions. The humans continue to believe that the Coalition views them as a curiosity, a young species to be observed and perhaps eventually inducted into our ranks. They have no idea that the Council of Dominions has already voted for their extermination. The Krillian delegate chimed again, this time with a questioning frequency. The translation matrix converted the sound into words that appeared in the air, and what of their technology? The reports suggested some unusual developments in their engineering approaches. Zekthor waved one of his lower arms dismissively. Primitive improvisation, nothing more. Yes, the humans have shown some creativity in their applications of existing technologies, but they lack the fundamental understanding that comes from millennia of scientific advancement. They have been a spacefaring species for less than 2 centuries. We have been mastering the stars for 60 centuries. There is no comparison. What none of them noticed was the faint shimmer approximately 300 meters from the station's primary viewport, a distortion so subtle that it would have been invisible to anyone not specifically looking for it. The distortion held position with perfect precision, maintaining its location relative to the rotating station with microscopic adjustments from thruster systems that made no sound and produced no detectable heat signature. Inside that shimmer, hidden behind layers of technology that bent light and sensor waves around it like water flowing around a stone, the UFNS Phantom's Edge maintained its silent vigil. Captain Marcus Chin stood on the bridge of his ship, arms crossed over his chest, watching the alien war council through sensors that could detect everything from gravitational fluctuations to quantum entanglement patterns. His ship was the culmination of humanity's response to a simple question: how do you compete with civilizations thousands of years older than your own? The answer, it turned out, was that you didn't compete on their terms. You changed the game entirely. Captain, their encryption is actually making this easier, Lieutenant Sarah Okonkwo reported from the communications station, a slight smile playing across her dark features. They're so confident in their security that they've created a single unified translation system. We're getting real-time translations of everything being said in there, in 17 different languages simultaneously. The linguistic database we're building from this is going to revolutionize our xenolinguistics programs. Marcus nodded, though his expression remained grim. Make sure every word is being recorded and transmitted back to Fleet Command via the quantum link. Earth needs to hear this. He turned to his tactical officer, a stern-faced woman named Commander Patricia Volkov, who had cut her teeth in the corporate wars that preceded humanity's unification. "Pat, what's our tactical assessment?" Volkov didn't look up from her displays, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as she analyzed every aspect of the alien station and the fleet assembled around it. 73 capital ships, 214 support vessels, and at least 40 fighter carrier configurations. Total estimated crew complement is somewhere around 200,000, give or take. Their positioning is textbook perfect, by their standards. Every ship has overlapping fields of fire, sensor coverage is redundant across multiple spectrums, and they've got enough firepower pointed at the human colonies to crack planets. Weaknesses? Marcus asked. A predatory smile crossed Volkov's face. They're not looking inward. Every single sensor, every weapon, every defensive system is pointed outward. They're so focused on projecting power that they've created a perfect blind spot at the center of their formation. Classic apex predator mentality. They can't conceive of prey sneaking into their midst. On the station, Zekthor was now detailing the attack plan with obvious relish. The first wave will strike the human colony of New Singapore. It is their most prosperous trade hub, and its destruction will cripple their economy. Simultaneously, we will eliminate their shipyards at the Armstrong station orbiting their moon. Without the ability to construct new vessels, their military capacity will freeze at current levels. The subsequent waves will proceed systematically, eliminating their colonies in order of strategic value until only their homeworld remains. And Earth itself? The question came from the Thorian delegate, his words emerging as deep subsonic rumbles. The humans are numerous on their breeding world. Pacification will be costly. Zekthor's patterns shifted to something approximating cold satisfaction. We will not occupy Earth, War Master Gorin. We will render it uninhabitable. A demonstration of fusion bombardment will be broadcast to the surviving human populations in controlled reservations. They will serve as a cautionary tale to any other young species that might consider expanding beyond their ordained boundaries. The galaxy has an order, and the humans have disrupted it with their chaos and their unpredictable nature. Marcus felt his jaw tighten as he listened to the casual discussion of genocide. Around him, his bridge crew showed similar reactions. Lieutenant Okonkwo's hands had curled into fists. Volkov's expression had gone from predatory to murderous. Even the typically unflappable helmsman, Ensign James Park, looked like he wanted to ram the invisible ship directly into the station at full burn. "Easy," Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying to every station. "We all want to make them pay for those words. But we're outnumbered, outgunned, and deep in hostile territory. Our mission is intelligence gathering. We need to get this information back to Earth so our people can prepare." "Captain," a new voice spoke up. Lieutenant Commander David Reeves, the ship's chief science officer, approached from his station near the back of the bridge. The physicist looked troubled, which was never a good sign. "I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures from the station. They're charging something big, something that's creating gravitational eddies I've never seen outside of a stellar core." Marcus turned to face him fully. "Explain." Reeves called up a holographic display that showed complex mathematical models and energy readings. "See these spikes? That's not a weapon, at least not a conventional one. The energy profile suggests they're opening some kind of spatial rift. If I had to guess, and I really hate guessing with physics like this, I'd say they're preparing to open a wormhole." "A wormhole to where?" Marcus asked, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew the answer. "Based on the gravitational vectors and the amount of energy they're pumping into it, I'd say somewhere in our local space. Somewhere close to Earth." On the station, Sarah Kal was now explaining exactly what Reeves had deduced. "The wormhole generator is the Coalition's greatest achievement in the past millennium. It allows us to bypass the traditional constraints of faster-than-light travel. Rather than spending weeks traversing the distance to human space, we will open a stable portal directly into the heart of their territory. Our fleet will arrive without warning, without the possibility of detection during transit, and without giving them any chance to mount a defense. "When does the attack commence?" asked the Exatheri observer, speaking for the first time. Its voice, translated from fluctuations in its energy field, sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Zekthor's patterns blazed with triumph. "The generator will reach full charge in 6 standard hours. We attack at dawn, by the humans' Earth reckoning." Poetic, is it not? As their sun rises on their homeworld, it will also set on their civilization for the final time. The assembled council erupted in celebration. Drinks were poured from containers holding liquids that ranged from crystalline suspensions to what appeared to be live, glowing organisms. The various species toasted to their upcoming victory, to the preservation of galactic order, and to the elimination of the human threat. Marcus watched it all, his mind racing through possibilities and scenarios. 6 hours. They had 6 hours to get word back to Earth, and even then, it might not be enough time to mount an effective defense. The quantum communication link would get the message there instantaneously, but mobilizing the fleet, evacuating civilians, preparing planetary defenses, all of that took time that humanity didn't have. "Captain," Volkov said quietly, "I know what you're thinking, and I want to go on record as saying it's the most insane idea you've ever had, which is really saying something given your service record." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I haven't said anything yet." "You don't have to, sir. I've served with you for 8 years. I know that look. You're thinking about hitting the wormhole generator." "The thought had crossed my mind," Marcus admitted. "If we can disable it, we buy Earth time to prepare." "We're one ship, Captain," Reeves interjected, his tone worried. "One very advanced ship with revolutionary stealth capabilities, granted, but still just one ship against 73 capital ships and supporting elements. The math on that engagement is not in our favor." "The math on humanity's survival isn't in our favor either," Marcus countered. "But here we are, still alive and kicking after 2 centuries of being told we're too primitive, too young, too chaotic to survive in the galactic community. You know why we're still here? Because we don't fight fair. Because when someone bigger and stronger than us shows up, we don't roll over. We bite, we claw, and we go for the throat." Lieutenant Okonkwo spoke up, her voice steady despite the fear Marcus could see in her eyes. "Captain, we all knew what we signed up for when we joined the Phantom program. We're the tip of the spear, the eyes and ears operating in places humanity isn't supposed to be. If there was ever a time to live up to that mandate, it's now. I say we take the shot." Around the bridge, heads nodded in agreement. Park at the helm station straightened in his seat. "My family is on New Singapore, sir. If you're taking a vote, I'm in." Volkov pulled up tactical displays, already running calculations. "If we're doing this, we need to be smart about it. A direct assault on the generator is suicide. But the station's power grid, on the other hand, that's a different story. Take out the primary fusion reactors, and the generator becomes an expensive paperweight." "They'll still have backup power," Reeves noted. "True," Volkov agreed, "but backup systems don't have the same output capacity as primary reactors. It would take them days, maybe weeks, to charge the generator on emergency power. That gives Earth time to prepare, time to rally the fleet, time to turn this from a massacre into a fight." Marcus studied the tactical display, looking at the positioning of the alien fleet, the layout of the station, the locations of critical systems. His crew was right. This was insane. This was probably going to get them all killed. And it was absolutely necessary. "All right," he said, his voice carrying the weight of command. "We do this. But we do it smart, and we do it by the numbers. Volkov, I want 3 different attack plans, each with multiple contingencies. Reeves, you're going to tell me everything you know about Valkyrie reactor design and what it takes to make one go critical. Okonkwo, send a priority alpha transmission to Fleet Command. Full data dump of everything we've learned, along with our intentions. If we don't make it out of this, Earth needs to know what's coming. And Marcus added, turning to his helmsman, I need you to plot the most insane escape vector you can imagine. Something so unpredictable that their tactical computers won't see it coming. Park's fingers were already moving across his controls. I've got just the thing, sir. Remember that gravity assist maneuver we tested in the Sigma Draconis system? The one that nearly tore the ship apart? The one that Command ordered us never to attempt again under any circumstances? Marcus asked. That's the one. Perfect. Plan for that, but worse. As the crew set to work, Marcus allowed himself one moment to look at the Alien War Council still celebrating their premature victory. They had no idea that death was floating just outside their window, that the primitive humans they so thoroughly dismissed had been watching and listening to every word. They had made the classic mistake of underestimating their opponent, of assuming that age and tradition were the same as superiority. Humanity had only been among the stars for 2 centuries, but those had been 2 centuries of rapid innovation driven by the knowledge that they were the newcomers in a galaxy full of older, more established powers. While other species refined technologies that had remained essentially unchanged for millennia, humans had embraced change, had experimented with approaches that older civilizations dismissed as impossible or impractical. The Phantom's Edge was the result of that philosophy. Its stealth systems were based on principles that Valkyrie physics declared were theoretically sound but practically impossible to implement. Its power systems used controlled quantum fluctuations that the Krillians insisted would lead to catastrophic failure. Its AI-assisted tactical systems employed heuristic learning algorithms that the Thorians argued would inevitably lead to machine rebellion. Every system on the ship had been declared impossible by some alien expert or another. And every system worked flawlessly because humanity had long ago learned not to let other people's limitations define their possibilities. Commander Sir Kal was now detailing the disposition of forces for the invasion, assigning specific ships to specific targets. Marcus listened carefully, committing every detail to memory. Knowledge was power, and right now, humanity needed every advantage it could get. The Crimson Fleet will take point through the wormhole, Sir Kal explained, highlighting a group of aggressive-looking ships that bristled with weapons. They will establish a defensive perimeter while the main battle groups transit. Total transit time for the full fleet is estimated at 14 minutes. Once through, we will be less than 1 light hour from Earth itself. 1 light hour. Close enough that even slower-than-light weapons would reach their targets in a subjective instant. Close enough that Earth's defensive platforms would have almost no time to react. It would be a slaughter. Unless the wormhole never opened. Unless a single human ship, crewed by men and women who refused to accept the galaxy's assessment of humanity's worth, managed to do the impossible one more time. Marcus Chin straightened his uniform and looked at his crew, these brilliant, brave souls who had followed him into the dark spaces between stars. All right, people, he said, his voice calm and steady. Let's show these ancient civilizations what happens when you underestimate humanity. Stations, prepare for combat operations. In 6 hours, we're going to crash their party, and we're not bringing a gift. The celebration continued on the station, oblivious to the storm that was about to break upon them, unaware that their perfect plan had already failed because of the one variable they had never properly accounted for, human unpredictability, human determination, and the simple human refusal to go quietly into extinction. 5 hours and 47 minutes had passed since Captain Marcus Chen had made the decision that would either save humanity or doom his crew to an anonymous death in the cold void between stars. The Phantom's Edge had drifted closer to the Valkyrie station, so close now that Marcus could see individual aliens moving through the transparent sections of the command deck. They were still celebrating, still toasting to their inevitable victory, still completely unaware that their executioner was already among them. Commander Volkov had triple-checked her calculations, then checked them again for good measure. The attack plan displayed on the tactical screen was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications. They would drop stealth for exactly 8 seconds, fire every weapon they had at the station's primary reactor cluster, then initiate Park's insane escape maneuver before the alien fleet could bring its overwhelming firepower to bear. 8 seconds to cripple a station that had taken the Coalition's best engineers a decade to construct. 8 seconds to buy Earth the time it needed to survive. All weapons charged and ready, Captain, Volkov reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. I've programmed a firing solution that will put kinetic penetrators, plasma charges, and tactical nuclear warheads into the reactor complex simultaneously. The redundancy should ensure that even if their defensive systems manage to intercept some of our ordnance, enough will get through to cause a catastrophic overload. Marcus nodded, his eyes scanning the bridge one final time. Every member of his crew was at their station, focused and ready. Lieutenant Okonkwo had already transmitted their final report to Fleet Command along with personal messages from the crew to their families. Just in case. Reeves had his hands poised over the emergency power controls, ready to redirect every erg of energy the ship could generate into the engines for their escape. Park sat motionless at the helm, but Marcus could see the tension in his shoulders, the coiled readiness of a sprinter waiting for the starting gun. Quantum communication confirms receipt by Fleet Command, Okonkwo said quietly. Admiral Zhao sends her regards and says, and I quote, "Give them hell, Phantom. Earth is watching." No pressure then, Park muttered, which drew brief smiles from several crew members despite the tension. On the station, Admiral Zekthor was making what appeared to be a final speech before the attack commenced. His bioluminescent patterns blazed with colors that the translation matrix interpreted as pride, determination, and anticipation. My fellow commanders, we stand at the threshold of history. When the chronicles of the Coalition are written 1,000 years hence, this day will be remembered as the moment when we preserve the natural order of the galaxy. The humans, with their chaos and their unpredictability, represent everything that threatens the stability we have maintained for millennia. Today, we excise that threat. Marcus felt a cold anger settle over him, the kind of focused rage that sharpened rather than clouded judgment. These beings were planning to exterminate billions of humans, including children who had never even left their home planet, and they spoke of it as though they were performing some noble service. The worst part was that they genuinely believed it. In their ancient, calcified civilizations, humanity's rapid innovation and refusal to accept the status quo was seen as a dangerous infection that needed to be eliminated before it spread. Sir, the wormhole generator is beginning its final power-up sequence, Reeves reported, his instruments tracking the massive energy buildup within the station's core. I'm reading gravitational fluctuations that are off the scale. Whatever that thing is about to do, it's going to make a black hole look subtle by comparison. Time to full charge? Marcus asked. 11 minutes, 40 seconds. Once it reaches critical mass, they can open the portal at will. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of command settle on his shoulders like a familiar cloak. 11 minutes. They couldn't wait any longer. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations. We are commencing our attack in 60 seconds. I won't lie to you about our chances. We're one ship against a fleet that could crack worlds. But we're also humanity's only warning, Earth's only chance to prepare for what's coming. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't surrender, doesn't break, and sure as hell doesn't go down without a fight. It has been my greatest honor to serve with each and every one of you. Phantom's Edge, prepare to go loud. Throughout the ship, status lights shifted from stealth configuration to combat readiness. Weapon ports that had been sealed behind adaptive camouflage irised open. The ship's reactor, previously running at minimal output to reduce detectability, began ramping up to full combat power. Targeting solutions locked onto the station's critical systems with the precision that only human-designed AI could achieve, adapting and refining the firing pattern 1,000 times per second. 50 seconds, Volkov counted down. All weapons armed and locked. Firing sequence programmed and ready for execution. On the station, Sir Kal approached Admiral Zekthor with a data tablet, her patterns showing professional satisfaction. Admiral, the fleet reports ready in all respects. The wormhole generator is performing flawlessly. The humans' military communications networks remain quiet. They suspect nothing. Zekthor's patterns pulsed with what could only be described as smug satisfaction. Of course they suspect nothing. They are children playing at civilization while we orchestrate their 30 seconds, Volkov announced. Marcus gripped the armrests of his command chair. Okonkwo, prepare a wideband transmission on all frequencies. When we drop stealth, I want every ship in that fleet to hear what I'm about to say. Aye, Captain. Channel open and ready. 15 seconds. Park's fingers hovered over the helm controls. Escape vector plotted and locked. Sir, if we survive this, drinks are on you for the rest of our natural lives. Deal, Marcus said, allowing himself a tight smile. 10 seconds. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems and Volkov's steady countdown. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Execute. The Phantom's Edge dropped its stealth field, and for the first time, its sleek, predatory form became visible to the alien fleet. Simultaneously, every weapon system fired in a precisely coordinated sequence. Kinetic penetrators accelerated to a fraction of light speed, their depleted uranium cores designed to punch through any armor. Plasma charges followed microseconds later, superheated matter contained in magnetic bottles that would detonate on impact. And finally, 6 tactical nuclear warheads, each one small by strategic standards but devastating at close range, streaked toward the station's reactor complex. The effect on the Alien War Council was instantaneous and profound. Alarm klaxons began wailing throughout the station. Sarah Kael's data tablet clattered to the floor as she stared in disbelief at the human warship that had materialized from nowhere. Zekthor's patterns shifted through a rapid cascade of colors that the translation matrix struggled to interpret: shock, disbelief, fear, and finally, rage. Impossible, he roared. There are no human ships within 50 light-years of this position. Our sensors would have detected. Marcus's voice cut through the chaos, broadcast on every frequency the alien fleet used. Attention Coalition forces. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the United Federation naval ship Phantom's Edge. We've been listening to your little genocide planning session for the past 6 hours. Earth has been warned. Your surprise attack is no longer a surprise. And as for your wormhole generator, well, I'm afraid we have some objections to your travel plans. The first kinetic penetrators struck the station's outer hull, punching through advanced composite armor like it was tissue paper. The Valkyrie had designed their station to withstand attacks from other capital ships at range, not point-blank fire from a vessel close enough to be docked. The penetrators bored deep into the station's superstructure, creating channels for the plasma charges that followed. Superheated matter flooded into the station's infrastructure, melting through conduits, vaporizing coolant systems, and compromising the carefully designed safety mechanisms that kept the massive fusion reactors stable. Emergency containment systems tried to activate, but the nuclear warheads arrived before they could fully engage, their detonations sending shockwaves through the already compromised reactor complex. On the bridge of the Phantom's Edge, Reeves watched his instruments with wide eyes. Direct hits on all 6 primary reactors. The containment fields are destabilizing. I'm reading cascade failures across their entire power grid. The wormhole generator is losing power exponentially. Park, get us out of here. Marcus ordered. The helmsman's fingers danced across his controls with practiced precision, initiating a maneuver that would have been impossible for any ship not equipped with the inertial dampeners that humanity had developed specifically to enable insane tactical options. The Phantom's Edge rotated on its central axis while simultaneously firing its main engines at full burn, creating a vector that sent it diving down relative to the plane of the alien fleet formation. The G-forces would have liquefied the crew if not for the dampeners, and even with them, Marcus felt like an enormous hand was pressing him into his chair. Around him, the bridge crew grunted with exertion as they fought to maintain control of their stations under the intense acceleration. The alien fleet reacted with the speed that came from millennia of military tradition, but speed wasn't enough when facing an opponent who refused to be predictable. Energy weapons lanced through the space where the Phantom's Edge had been moments before. Missiles launched from a dozen carriers tried to acquire lock on the wildly maneuvering human ship. Fighter craft began deploying from their carriers, their pilots scrambling to intercept a target that seemed to defy the normal laws of physics. "They're tracking us," Volkov reported, her hands working to activate the ship's defensive systems. "I count over 200 weapons locked onto our position. Point defense systems engaging." The Phantom's edge's hull bristled with small but rapid-firing turrets that used AI-assisted targeting to engage incoming threats. Lasers invisible in the vacuum of space reached out to detonate missiles before they could close. Railgun rounds intercepted energy torpedoes in blooms of incandescent plasma. But there were too many targets, too many weapons converging from too many angles. "Forward shields at 60% and falling," Reeves called out. "Aft shields at 40%. We can't sustain this level of incoming fire for more than another 30 seconds. "Park, tell me you've got something," Marcus said, his voice calm despite the ship shaking around them as impacts hammered their defensive screens. "Working on it, sir," Park replied through gritted teeth. His display showed the local stellar geography, including the massive gas giant the alien fleet had positioned itself near. The planet was a swirling maelstrom of storms and gravity wells, with 3 large moons and a ring system composed of ice and rock. "There. If I can thread us through the ring system, the debris will mask our sensor signature long enough to re-engage the stealth field." "Do it." The Phantom's edge executed a course change so violent that equipment not properly secured went flying across the bridge. The ship dove toward the gas giant's ring system, accelerating past velocities that should have torn it apart. Behind them, the alien fleet gave chase, hundreds of ships moving to intercept or cut off possible escape routes. On the station, emergency crews were fighting a losing battle against the catastrophic damage the human attack had caused. Reactor containment fields flickered and died. Fusion reactions that had been carefully controlled became runaway chain reactions. Zekthor stood in the command center, watching his grand plan disintegrating along with his station. "Evacuate the station," he ordered, his patterns now showing only grim determination. "All personnel to the escape craft. Engineering, how long can you keep the reactors from going critical?" The response came back almost immediately, translated from the panicked harmonic frequencies of a Krillian engineer. 10 minutes, maybe less. The damage is too extensive. The humans didn't just damage the reactors, they created a perfect cascade scenario. It's almost as if they knew exactly where to hit us to cause maximum destruction with minimum firepower. Sarah Kal, who had maintained her composure despite the chaos, pulled up the sensor logs from the moments before the attack. What she saw made her patterns shift to colors that indicated a profound realization. "Admiral, look at this. The human ship's stealth signature, there's a faint gravitational echo in our sensor logs going back 7 hours. They were here the entire time. They listened to everything we said. They knew our entire plan." Zekthor stared at the data, his mind struggling to accept what his eyes were showing him. A human ship had infiltrated their most secure facility, had positioned itself within weapons range of their command station, and had waited with the patience of a predator for the perfect moment to strike. These were not the actions of a primitive, chaotic species. These were the tactics of a civilization that understood warfare at a fundamental level. "Recall the fleet," he said quietly. "Admiral?" Sarah Kal's patterns showed confusion. "Recall the fleet?" Zekthor roared. "We have underestimated the humans catastrophically. If they have ships like that, vessels that can penetrate our defenses undetected, then our intelligence has been worthless. For all we know, there could be a dozen human ships hidden among our fleet right now. We need to regroup, reassess, and approach this threat with the respect it clearly deserves." The Phantom's edge plunged into the gas giant's ring system, and Park proved why he was the best helmsman in the human fleet. The ship twisted and turned through a 3-dimensional maze of ice chunks ranging in size from pebbles to mountains. Alien weapons fire followed them into the rings, but the debris field made accurate targeting impossible. Several pursuing fighters collided with ring particles and simply ceased to exist in bursts of brief, brilliant light. Stealth field generator is ready, Volkov reported. But we need at least 15 seconds without direct line of sight from the alien fleet to re-engage without them marking our position. On it, Park said. He steered the ship toward a particularly dense cluster of ice and rock, threading the vessel through a gap that their sensors said was exactly 7 meters wider than the ship on either side. Now would be good. Engaging stealth field, Volkov said. The shimmer effect enveloped the Phantom's edge once more, and the ship seemed to vanish from reality itself. The pursuing alien ships suddenly found themselves chasing sensor ghosts. Their weapons continued to fire, but now they were hitting only ice and empty space. Confusion spread through their ranks as commanders demanded to know how a ship could simply disappear when they had it directly in their sights. Inside the Phantom's edge, the crew allowed themselves to breathe again. Marcus unclenched his hands from his armrests and surveyed the damage reports flowing across his displays. Status report. Shields are recharging, Reeves said. Hull integrity is at 92%. We took some hits, but nothing critical. The stealth field is holding, and we're effectively invisible again. The alien station just went critical, Okonkwo reported, her instruments tracking the massive energy release. The reactors are going into meltdown. The Coalition fleet is moving to evacuate the station personnel, and they're pulling back from pursuit. I think they're retreating. Marcus pulled up the visual feed and watched as the Valkyrie station began to tear itself apart. Explosions rippled across its surface as one system after another failed. Escape pods launched in their hundreds, small craft fleeing the dying station like insects abandoning a collapsing hive. The massive wormhole generator, the pride of Coalition engineering, went dark as its power supply died. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, Okonkwo said, surprise evident in her voice. It's from Admiral Zekthor himself. It's on a human frequency. He's addressing us directly. Put it through. Zekthor's translated voice filled the bridge, and for the first time, Marcus heard something in it that hadn't been there before: respect. Captain Chin of the Phantom's Edge. You have made your point effectively. The Coalition will withdraw to reconsider our assessment of humanity. But know this, we have been the dominant power in this region of space for 6,000 years. Today you have won a battle, but the war between our civilizations has only just begun. We will meet again, and next time, we will be prepared for your creativity. Marcus gestured for Okonkwo to open a channel. Admiral Zekthor, you came here planning to exterminate my species because you found us unpredictable and chaotic. You've learned today that you were right to fear those qualities. Humanity doesn't fit neatly into your ancient order, and we're not going to apologize for it. You want a war with us? You'll get one. But remember this moment. Remember that a single human ship just destroyed your invasion plans and crippled a station it took you a decade to build. Now imagine what we'll do when we're ready for you. There was a long pause before Zekthor responded. Your species is either very brave or very foolish, Captain. Perhaps both. We shall see which assessment proves correct when next we meet. The transmission ended. Marcus sat back in his chair, suddenly feeling the exhaustion that came after a massive adrenaline surge. Around him, his crew looked similarly drained but also exhilarated. They had done the impossible. They had faced overwhelming odds and not just survived but succeeded. Helm, set course for Earth, Marcus ordered. Best speed, but keep us stealthy. Let's go home. As the Phantom's Edge slipped away from the chaos it had created, Marcus allowed himself a moment to reflect on what they had accomplished. The alien coalition had come together to eliminate what they saw as a threat to galactic order. They had brought their best ships, their most advanced technology, and their certainty of superiority. And they had been beaten by human ingenuity, human determination, and the simple human refusal to accept defeat. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, and when the Phantom's Edge finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the outskirts of the Sol system, they found a fleet waiting for them. But these weren't alien ships come to finish what the Coalition had started. These were human vessels, hundreds of them, from every colony and nation in the Federation. Admiral Zhao's flagship led the formation, and her transmission reached them immediately. Captain Chen, on behalf of Earth and all of humanity, welcome home. Your warning gave us time to mobilize. The Coalition's surprise attack would have devastated us. Instead, we're ready for whatever comes next. The story of what you and your crew did is already spreading across human space. You've become a symbol of everything we aspire to be: brave, clever, and utterly unwilling to back down from a fight we didn't start but fully intend to finish. Marcus smiled as Earth came into view, that beautiful blue marble that held billions of humans who would now live to see another day. Thank you, Admiral. But the Phantom's Edge was just one ship. Imagine what we'll accomplish together. As they approached Earth, Marcus thought about Admiral Zekthor's words. The Coalition would be back, better prepared and no longer underestimating their human opponents. But humanity would be ready too. They would use the time they had bought to innovate, to build, to prepare for the war that was coming. And when that war arrived, the galaxy would learn what humanity had known since their earliest days on the African savanna, that the most dangerous predator isn't always the biggest or the strongest, but the one that adapts, evolves, and never gives up. The Phantom's Edge docked at the Armstrong Station, the same shipyard the Coalition had planned to destroy in their first wave. Marcus and his crew disembarked to a hero's welcome, but Marcus knew their work was far from over. This was just the beginning. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as victims to be exterminated, but as a force to be reckoned with. The ancient civilizations that had ruled unchallenged for millennia now had competition, and that competition had just demonstrated that age and tradition were no match for innovation and determination. As Marcus stood on the observation deck looking out at Earth, Lieutenant Okonkwo joined him. "Do you think they'll really come back?" she asked. "Yes," Marcus said without hesitation. "But that's okay. We'll be ready. And more importantly, they'll never again make the mistake of underestimating us. We've shown them that humanity belongs among the stars, and we're not asking for permission anymore." The War Council had celebrated too early, unaware that the human warship was already there. They had learned their lesson the hard way. And across the galaxy, other civilizations were learning it too. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end.